Welcome back to All That Jam, where music has no limits. I'm with Amanda, and we are with Caton
Yes.
Sollenberger from the Jauntee. It is your third time, maybe even your fourth time we've talked. You're a lifer now. How we doing,
Yeah,
man?
right. Yeah. Yep. Grandfathered in.
Yeah, yeah, very nice. All right. Well, the last time we talked, your album Anything hadn't come out yet. So why
Okay.
don't we pick up there? That came out, I guess, last July. What was the reception like?
It was really good. We've been I think we got a couple of the tunes from there on some like playlists and stuff, which is always helpful for visibility. Um, we were really happy with how it came out. We did pretty much everything in-house. When we mixed it, we went to a studio in Boulder, and the engineer there kind of let us get hands-on, which was really cool. And then he mastered it for us. So besides mastering, we kind of did most of it ourselves, although a lot of the gear wasn't ours. But yeah, we were really happy with how it turned out. And I don't know if we ever, I don't know if we, I guess we made CDs. Yeah, we made CDs. I can't remember if we even bothered to do that anymore. But we do, and we did. And so yeah, that was really good. And then we've been kind of like already starting the process of the next one, you know. I feel like it's like just a constant turnover almost.
Inertia.
When you realize how long it takes to put one out, then it's like, well, we better get started. Yeah, you know.
Right. Well, we talked to some people who are like, yeah, we already have the next one written, and we're still trying to get the last one out. You know,
Right. Yeah. Gosh, that's
that's
a better
crazy.
place to be for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
CDs seem to be making a comeback. We were talking to somebody, Amanda, who was all big on CDs a couple weeks ago. That was that's going to be the next medium to come back, and I could see
Right.
it. They hold up better. I don't think they sound as good as an LP, but
Right. Yeah. I've actually, I mentioned when before we signed on here that I was kind of working with some young musicians recently, and one of the kids is like, "Oh, I have a CD collection." You know, it was just a funny thing. It used to be necessary, but now it's like a thing that you can brag about.
yeah, my youngest gets them from Goodwill for like $1. She'll come in,
Right.
you know what I bought, and I'm like, wow, I bought that for like $15 when it came.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
I know. That's like me with my cassettes. It's like a badge of honor that I still have every single one of them, plus many more, and a way to play them. But
Right.
I
That's the
think
kicker. Yeah.
they have that. But yeah, there's this maybe sense of a return to just the physical artifact in some way, shape, or form that I wonder if people are hungry for, even if they've never had it necessarily.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think we probably went like, you know, I LPs and stuff were my dad's thing, and he had a huge collection, and you know, I built up my CDs, but then I got into the album thing after a period of time just because I wanted like a bigger physical thing, you know. So yeah, I'm sure it's that. There's something about also, I think you know, you can still, I guess, get it on digital platforms, but something about listening to an album in its entirety. It's just like I think it's a lost like medium of listening to it, and therefore it becomes like a lost art of creating kind of a singular piece, you know.
And the holding the album cover or
Yep.
even the CD, and you had the book, and you're following along with the lyrics, and you're like, oh, who's
Right.
playing flute on that
Yeah,
song?
the
I
lyric
never
book
heard.
is like a special CD thing for sure.
Yeah.
I love that when like when you'd open a CD and it would only be like just the cover. It's like, oh, you know, I got ripped off.
You know, it was a re-release then.
Right.
So but after we got the album, you released volume 4 of Jaunts of Our Lives. Why don't you tell everybody out there a little bit about what that series is and what this
Yeah.
volume 4 is?
So like we do put a lot of our shows, almost all of them, on the internet somewhere. For years and years, we did it on Archive, and we'll still throw some stuff on there occasionally, but mostly we do it on nugs.net now. So, you know, like throughout the course of a show, sometimes things aren't perfect, and it's hard to, you know, put non-perfect things on an album. I guess it's just hard to get over that. But you know, over the course of a tour, there's enough like perfect moments that, you know, we've kind of put collages together of a tour. So we'll kind of set it up step 1 and step 2, that kind of idea of like sort of shorter stuff in the first CD or whatever, first disc, and then kind of like more jammier stuff in the second. That's what we've done in the past with this series, but we just had like a particularly rockin' show up in Sandpoint, Idaho. We had never been there before. Honestly, never even heard of the town. So you know, we were unsure what to expect. And then it ended up being like a really quaint place and, you know, beautiful scenery. And then the crowd was just awesome. And we happened to be kind of wrapping up a tour. So we were really warmed up and we just kind of were firing on all cylinders, it felt like. And, you know, afterwards we were like, that might have enough in there to warrant putting something together. So we kind of shortened it a bit versus like before we would do kind of like, you know, at least maybe an hour for each like set or each like disc or whatever. But since it was just one show, we just kind of like trimmed the fat a little bit and then wanted to fit it on a vinyl. So we put out with this club, I guess, like a vinyl club called Heady Wax Fiends. We put out this show from Sandpoint, Idaho, or, you know, shortened a few tunes on it, but recording quality was great, and the playing we thought was pretty spot on for what we were doing at that time. So so we put that out, volume 4, but it's also on, you know, all the streaming stuff and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think when you have those moments, like you said, where you just felt like it all came together and was just such a great example of kind of where you're at and where you want to be. Do you ever listen back to, you know, the other ones and kind of hear a progression over time, even, you know, with these first few volumes?
Yeah. I guess like at this point, you know, it's been years since the first one, and we've put out other releases under like other little names till we kind of settled on this one. And I don't, maybe it's like nerves or something. I don't tend to listen back that much. So when I do, and I listen to these, like when I see something, or if I maybe, like we were kind of listening or looking back through the other versions when we were picking out the songs for this one to try to avoid any like duplicates or whatever of songs. So, you know, when that does happen and I finally hear it, I definitely hear a progression both with, you know, individual playing, but also like just kind of like our overall tone of the band. That's kind of the most striking thing to me is like, you know, small changes in gear. You don't really notice stuff happening as it's happening, but then, you know, 2 years in between a release, then it's like, wow, my guitar was, you know, maybe more shrill back then, or maybe like, oh, how did I get that tone? I actually really like that, and I don't remember how, you know, stuff like that. I don't do it enough to like really get nitty gritty on our playing, just because I get a little nervous about covering myself or something, you know. Like I don't want to play even if it's really cool. I don't necessarily want to play the exact same thing, you know.
Right.
Stay shallow.
Right.
Stay up here above it. I mean, I'm totally with. That's what Fish does now. That's their story. They don't talk about it. I'm sure
Right.
Trey has not listened to a note of what he's played in years.
Right. Yeah.
Unless it was a studio thing, you know.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I think it's more, definitely on short term. Like, and that's sort of what practice is for us. Like, sometimes I'll think of things when we are playing over the course of a tour, maybe some weakness that I am thinking of, and then you know, if it comes up in practice when we're rehearsing something, then I'll be like, oh, this reminds me that, you know, I think we should be a little more consistent on this or whatever. But yeah, I think like analyzing the music too much, it can both, I guess you can just like get in your head a little bit too much, you know, because ultimately we want it to be fun and easy for us, you know.
The worst offender with that is Tom Stoltz from Boston. That's why it took him 8 years to do the first album and 4 to do the second.
Right. Yeah. If I would go back and, you know, I even have to kind of get away from like the mixing of the shows whenever we're putting them up on Archive or on Nugs or whatever, because I'll just get a little bit too critical, and even if it's like hypercritical, it's still hard to get over that hump, kind of, you know. Yeah. But I think most people who appreciate live concerts and stuff like that, and like the live versions of songs, kind of that's already kind of known to them. There might be a flub here and there. Listen to any live Fish or any live Dead, there's going to be flubs. So
All right, Mo was great with the warts and all. That was a great
Right.
name for a live
Right, exactly.
series.
Exactly. That's the mentality you have to have for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the best things about our scene is that we do come in, and I think by and large would so much love to see something, new or different, or like even a reach to try something that is kind of out there. And I love that. I think, sometimes on the flip side, from a fan's perspective, it can get a little bit analytical, but I think it comes from a place of just really listening and trying to pay attention, which I think ultimately is a good thing,
Yeah, exactly. And part of it is like, yeah, like you said, it's a good thing. And I think that like people are critical about things when they care about them, for sure. It's like you
Mhm.
have the desire to look that closely, so therefore you must like it, So
It's your baby. You're putting your child out into the world. You want it to
right.
look its best.
Yeah,
Shoes
definitely.
tied, socks up. Let's
Right. Right. Top button. Yeah.
top button. Right?
Well,
No,
and so you've got all that, and then in addition, as is always true of the Denver music scene, you have a whole bunch of other stuff. I should say Denver Boulder music scene, actually,
Right.
too. Thinking ahead,
Yeah, yeah.
but you have had a lot of different projects and kind of other collaborations happening. And I would love to start with what you're doing for Roots Music Project. And we love Dave Kennedy, and
Yeah.
the work that he's doing over there is fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about what your role is kind of becoming with
Yeah.
Roots?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, maybe to start, I kind of I met Dave and some other members of Roots, or like, people in charge, I guess. Maybe in 2020, like soon after the lockdown thing. And, since they were kind of a private organization with a lot of space, we were able to get together and play some music. And I actually played keyboards on like the first gig that they had there, which was like a Motown Stax tribute thing. And this was before they were even really like putting on shows. This was like a fundraiser or something like that. And so I met Dave then, and I've stayed in contact, played a couple other events there over the years. And then this guy named Jesse Ogle, he's lived in Durango for many years and started a music school down there and a nonprofit called I Am Music. And he started working at Roots, kind of applying for grants and things like that. And he was interested in starting an education program of some kind for youth. So they had internships and things like that at Roots for high school kids, but never kind of like group instruction of any kind. So Jesse and I got to talking, and he had this idea already about, basically like a music industry prep idea for, high school aged kids. So we talked it through a bit, and he came up with this idea of, called Tempo, which is teaching teaching emerging musicians for professional opportunities, or training emerging musicians. That's what it is. So I signed on as kind of like the program director for that. So basically the idea is, when I was in music school, and before music school, I had like kind of no professional instruction as far as like the business side of things. And even in music school, so much of it is focused on, learning your instrument and learning how to perform. But no one really talks about what it takes off stage. Like, what does it take to actually put on a show? What about the tech side of things? What about, networking? What about, how to act on a gig? How, things like that. So all of these
watching
things,
your money.
right? Yeah. So all of these things were, kind of, we recognize them as a big hole in a lot of music education. So we, just kind of got with the a couple schools in the area to kind of try to coach a few students that maybe were already playing music and were interested in moving into the professional world or applying to school or something like that. And yeah, we're just trying to kind of like mentor some things. So we've got a group class, and then there's tons of workshops at Roots that are open to the public, but also, we're kind of helping these kids sign up for them. Sorry for my dog. So we're doing that. We're doing, kind of prep courses. If that's still happening, can you guys hear that?
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
Totally
good. All right. So we've got, things like running live sound and recording your songs with professional musicians, things like that. Just little things. Something's out there. Little things. Like I said, that are not really focused on in music school, but are almost a daily focus in the actual music industry.
I always joked when I got my real estate license, you took a 2-week class that taught you the law, and then you went to sell real estate and you knew nothing. You were still at ground zero.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Like you have to be a salesman to do that, right? Yeah. And that's like almost kind of what it's like in the music industry too. It's like you have to, you're a product, and you have to, not sell yourself, but you have to present yourself in a way that is like attractive, So it's kind of just getting started. I think we're in our second week now, but it's I think just really a really cool kind of outside of the box way to get some kids involved, and we're gonna have them on like paid performances and things like that, like a 15-minute time slot at something, and we're gonna be doing some like we'll get these kids who have maybe songs that they wrote, and then me and this guy Jesse and a drummer that's there are gonna like learn their songs and play it with them, just things that are a cool realization of the music industry, I guess. Yeah.
And some of it's going to focus on the musical side too. I saw something about an improv workshop, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm there's kind of some one-on-one mentorship stuff as well as group stuff. So that's a little bit more like student dependent, whatever they are really interested in. Like I have 2 guitar players that are definitely into playing guitar, so we'll probably end up doing a decent amount of that. But then I'm teaching, and this is open to the public as well. I'm going to be doing an improv workshop there on the 12th of April, I believe. And that'll be like, communication with rhythms and kind of letting go. There's a lot of like, letting a moment go by and then moving forward, even if you kind of messed up. So, life lessons, I guess, as well as musical lessons. Yeah.
That's amazing. So there's an organization in New Orleans, the Trombone Shorty Foundation, that's been around for years. And they have a slightly different focus for entry point, but their thing also is, impact beyond the classroom. So there's the musicality side, but they're really trying to set up kids with skills, different skill sets. And that sounds really similar. And I would think that that's more and more important as the industry continues to shift away from the traditional management style, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And something that I've kind of been stressing and want to continue to stress to them is that like it's not necessarily like a one path track in the music industry. It's like you need to find a lot of paths that all lead to just like supporting your life, so like perfect example, I'm doing this I'm like working on this project with them, so it's like like I mostly perform and I love to play and I want to perform, but just you need to carve your path however you can, and that can be everything from getting involved in like sync licensing or podcasting or just there's so many different ways to do it, and there's it really is like a big pot. There's a lot of money in the arts, but you need to find out how to find it, how to find that money. So
as a teacher, as someone running workshops, do you find that it helps you in your playing?
I think that I go through kind of phases with that. Definitely like you know, I had this student, I helped him kind of apply to school and he's in college now, but you know, he was an amazing player and he was just like 16, 17. And I was like, man, like I was nowhere near this at this age. Like I got to keep practicing, you know, like, or else these kids are just going to blow right by me, you know? And definitely like, you know, when you are dealing with slightly more advanced students and then you get to some topic that maybe you haven't thought about in 5 years or something, you know, then it's a good time to kind of review that and be like, well, how well do I really understand it? I might be able to use this tool in my playing, but do I understand it enough to explain it to somebody else, you know? And just something that's interesting is that the same, you know, musical topic, whatever it may be, a lot of times it can be like discovered and then explained from a lot of different angles. So like not every person is going to understand it the same way. So a cool thing about teaching is that you have to like identify how that student might like be able to absorb whatever topic and then retrain yourself to be able to like teach it in that way. So yeah, it's just it's hard. It's hard to teach music. It's a very personal thing. Like it's not necessarily like, you know, not saying that teaching coding is easy or anything, but like it's not like you do this and this is the result. It's
Right.
like here's a lot of stuff and then you have to figure out how to make the result that you want. So it's like, yeah, it's an interesting thing to teach for sure.
Well, and I think about our area and supporting live music in such a strong way all the time. This, to me, what you're doing is so foundational and important to keep that going, because sometimes I have to remind myself, never assume that what we have and have always had, in any market where live music support is strong, there's a lot of factors out there, more and more, that could present a challenge. So I really, really love that you're doing this for so many reasons.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like, Boulder, it's because of like the college presence, I think that the music scene changes a lot. Like, there might be some freshman class that has this, like, for some reason, this big interest in whatever style, and then, 5 years later, they're gone. And like, maybe they kind of trickled down their influence to a couple classes, but then another class comes in with a new style. So, yeah. And, Boulder's not immune to venues closing, and, I spent 5 years in Boston, and just the amount of small venues that closed there over that period of time was like pretty disheartening, and it's still kind of happening, like kind of staple venues that just eventually the property is worth more than that venue is, and
that's going to happen to the 8x10. I see that happen to the 8x10. It's going to become co-ops.
Right.
That makes me sad.
Right. It's super sad. And, but like, that's what's really great about Roots, I think, is that like, obviously they want, to like spread the love of music and like put on events and stuff, but they're also like their own venue. And, they have sites for re-establishing, a music scene in Boulder. Not that it doesn't exist, but, it's not like it was in the early 2000s or whatever, yeah, they just have like a very musician directed mindset and they want to do well by musicians. That's why even for this thing, we're paying these kids to do these 15-minute slots to get the idea of like, hey, don't play for free. It's an art, and you have a skill, and people love music. And I think that it's kind of like, because of the instantaneous age that we live in of like Spotify and all that, it's like it's kind of easy to forget that music's a commodity, I guess. It's a thing that is worth paying for because it's the crowning achievement of humanity, I guess, in my opinion, so yeah, agreed. And they're doing like great stuff as far as trying to get events going on in other parts of Boulder. I know like in October they're going to be, I don't know if this is unannounced or I'm speaking out of turn, but they're going to be putting on kind of like an outdoor Pearl Street thing. They're going to do some shutdown of the streets, and they do I think they'll have stage at some of the other like festivals in Boulder. They did a summer concert series last year that I'm sure they'll try to do again up on the hill in Boulder. And yeah, just I wish every town had this kind of thing, you know.
The Hill, my God, I haven't heard that in years. I used to work at the Sink.
Oh, it's still there.
No, I know.
That one's holding on.
I watched
That
the
one's
OJ
funny.
chase. I watched the OJ chase from the Sink. That's how long ago I worked there.
Careful,
What a
careful.
reference point. I know.
God help me. So you got a few other bands, a few other things that you sit on that we definitely want to touch on. Kawan and the Homies was one of them, and
Yes.
Lit Society was the other. So your choice, who you want to talk about first?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll start with Kwan since you said him first. Kwan, he's a drummer, just a crazy, crazy drummer. And he plays with a band called Steady Flow. They're out of like Illinois. I don't know about Chicago proper, but they're from Illinois area. And they're kind of like a progressive funk kind of thing, I would say. Maybe like guitar, electric guitar, heavy, but like very funky. I think they've got horns sometimes. But yeah, so I met him years ago in Denver, I believe. Oh man, they bleed together, don't they? But yeah, so I've been playing with him just kind of off and on, and he has his original project where he has a ton of just like crazy music, like very aggressive funk, like somewhere between like P-funk and like, I don't know, like not metal, but like it's got an edge to it for sure. So
Go-go?
yeah,
Is it a little go-go maybe?
yeah, there's some of that in there for sure. I'm not sure where he's. I think he's from Atlanta maybe, but yeah. So we did a festival last year. You know, shows around Denver, stuff like that, and it's usually me and him and this guy Wyatt Ware on bass, and yeah, like I said, just like extremely aggressive music that's like super fun to play and just like kind of gives you that face the whole time you're playing it, you know, like and so yeah, he tours around with other artists as well, so that's kind of like not super frequent shows, but whenever we get together it's always loud and fun, you know. Yeah, and then Lit Society is kind of a collection of people as well. It's Eric Ambrosiano.
It's a super group. It's a super
yeah,
group.
it's a super group, I would say. Yeah, Eric Ambrosiano on the drums, me on guitar, and then this guy named Nate Miller on sax and trumpet. He's a younger guy that is like real gift to the Denver area. He plays with like Thievery Corporation when they come around, and has played with the Motet and stuff like that. So that's kind of the core of the band, is the three of us. And then we cycle bass players and keyboard players, and occasionally we'll add other horns, we'll add vocalists sometime. Actually, like in like 30 minutes, I think we're doing the official announce for a show at Roots, actually, with that band. But it's going to be so Eric, Nate, and I, and then Garrett Sayers from the Motet, the bass player, and then keyboards is Borum Lee, who is he's in like a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to think of Break Science is like his big thing, yeah, with Adam Deitch. Mm-hmm. And then Lyle Davinsky, who's a singer who sang with the Motet. I think he just recently moved back to the Denver area. So, oh yeah, and then Zoidis from Lettuce, I think he's in Lettuce. And so I might have messed that up because, again, it's kind of a collection. So names come in and out, and, you know, this guy's not available, so let's try this guy, that kind of thing. But yeah, that'll be on June 6th, I believe, at Roots. And that's going to be, yeah, a really fun time. That's like a legit super group right there.
Now, do you have something coming up at Little Bear Saloon, or did you?
Yes, we do. Good thing I have my calendar up here.
And
Yeah,
that
we're
has Lyle
playing.
Davinsky. That has
That has
Mhm.
that has Lyle as well. Yep.
we talked to Lyle when he moved to Nashville. So however long ago that
Oh,
was.
cool.
He had just
Right,
left the
right, yeah.
Pad and moved to Nashville and was working on those albums. And
Yep. Yeah, we'll be at the Little Bear on the 30th of March. So yeah, right at the end of this month.
what is
Um,
what does the set list look like? Are these songs written specifically for Lit Society, or is it all your stuff you all just pull in?
So we have we actually like until pretty much like last week or 2 weeks ago, we were mostly doing like cover stuff that we would then like kind of rearrange. So it's very much like a it's kind of like a jazz setup in the sense of like you got your tune and then you kind of pass some solos around and then you kind of finish the tune. That's how it started. And then we've gotten more into like, you know, we've been playing the tunes for a while, so we'll play the tune, maybe like do it with a different feel or something like that, do the solos, and then oftentimes we'll just kind of like improvise an outro or like morph it into a new tune or something like that. Then maybe a year ago we had a gig and we were supposed to have Adam Smirnoff from Lettuce play guitar. He got sick, unfortunately, but he sent us these recordings of like him and people playing in Boston in the 90s at this pretty famous jazz club called Wally's. And it's like right down the street from Berklee College of Music, where all those Lettuce guys went. So what they would do was kind of like a similar thing to what we were doing, but they would sort of mash up like maybe like a pop tune and then kind of a more standard funk thing. So they'd like play the funk head or whatever, and then like the bridge would be like chord progression with this pop tune melody over it, things like that. So we like kind of adopted a lot of those songs from that set list, as the band was sort of started as like a tribute to like New England funk. So like that Lettuce and Soul Live and the ABs and stuff like that. So we were doing a bunch of those tunes, and then then it's been a couple months or a year, so we were like, all right, now let's kind of move on to the next thing, and the progression was original music now. So yeah, we've got like a couple tunes in the pipes that we're trying to work into our live show. I'm sure by that March 30th date that we'll have them kind of hooked up. And yeah, it's trying to stay in the same vein of like instrumental funk music, but just get our names on it and do it that way. Yeah.
It's great. And I mean, the fact that there are these home, I guess, pockets here where you all can go and do that, like Appaloosa Grill and Wood Cellar. I mean, there's so many that I would imagine are just really friendly and conducive to getting together where people can still go and watch and enjoy it. But it's such a great atmosphere, for something like that. And it just seems like there's a lot of good options around to find a spot and like maybe get some crowd energy, but still not have it be this like massive like pressure thing,
Absolutely. Yeah. Denver is amazing in that regard of like, there's multiple places that have music every night of the week. There's multiple places that have like, open jam things, or at the very least like curated nights, and it's like, yeah, I mean, there's some weeks where I'll play, 6 shows or something and like play at 6 different places. And it's like, that's pretty amazing for a city to have that, especially of this size, And yeah, the other thing is the group of musicians is just like unbelievable. There's a lot of talent in Denver. And so you can do things like have a kind of, collaboration band like Lit Society where, maybe the person that normally plays isn't available, but there's this other pool of amazing keyboard players that we can call, and like they bring their own kind of thing to the music. And it's just very fortunate. I don't know if it's easy to forget when you're grinding, but man, it's nice to be able to call up a band on a day's notice and it's going to be good. So
yeah, so you have some shows with your main gig coming up too, right?
Yes, with the Jauntee. We just played at Globe Hall like this past weekend. It was so much fun. And then we're playing at the Fox with Neighbors, some friends of ours from Massachusetts. We're playing with
Rob is
them.
stepping in. That's going to be
That's
interesting
right.
with Rob stepping in there.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny. I was attending college and 19 or whatever when I met Rob, and Dopapod was like the band that we all were modeling our stuff after. Just like, oh, this is a grassroots thing. They play, warehouse parties, and then they moved up to clubs. So that was kind of the same sort of path that we were trying to follow. So yeah, I've looked up to Rob for a long time, and I mean, his playing is unbelievable. So obviously, like Lyle. And so what's funny is that back then, Rob wasn't really never has been much of like a stay out after the show and party kind of thing. So I was only 19. I couldn't even go to some of the shows. So I would go pick him up at the venue, and then we'd go back to my place and we just like jam all night, And so he was always telling me about Lyle Brewer, this guy, Lyle Brewer. He was Rob's favorite guy. So after a couple years, I finally found him on the internet and started doing stuff. And then we played some shows together. I think I might have even called him up for a lesson years ago. And then kind of has come full circle now. Rob's coming back in the fold, and I mean, he's such a great player. All that's going to happen is kind of the same thing that I said with these Denver bands. Is he's just going to bring his own thing. Like, he's not going to diminish or change it enough that it's not going to be what it was, but he's going to breathe his own life into it, kind of thing. So yeah, we'll be playing there on the 13th. Then Jauntee's got a run the following weeks. I think we're starting on the 19th, maybe the 18th. In the Midwest, we're doing a couple nights with Spafford, and then a couple nights just with us in the Midwest. Yeah,
we will put some dates.
Yes, I pulled up my calendar hoping I could say them, but it's just like one big block of gone. So
are there new songs? The Since Anything?
Yes. Oh yeah, Since Anything. We have a ton. We haven't debuted too many Since Anything, but we have like a bunch in the pipes that are really close to being.
Maybe this run coming up.
Yep. We did we debuted one on this past run that we took to the Northwest, and then we're hoping to get two more ready for that run. Yeah. Nice. But it's tough. It's like with anything, our goal was to like record a bunch of songs that we've never played live. And then when we put the album out, we did the whole album at the show. So that was like the first time playing a ton of the songs. I think 80% of them. But which was cool because then we got to really work the tunes up in the studio. But then it was also kind of hard because we had these studio versions that were like we spent all this time on, and then when you play them live as a 4-piece, it's like, oh, we actually still have to work these out for how to play them live. So we're still kind of like. There's a couple of songs on Anything that we've only played maybe 3 or 4 times total. Just being like, well, we actually need to kind of rework those a little, But yeah, hoping for some debuts, and more than anything, hoping for smooth travels.
Yeah. You got anything else there, Amanda?
I mean, we covered a lot. I think it's just been so great as we've gotten to know you, to see all these different ways that you are not only a part of the scene here, but you are actively working to make sure that it stays strong and that it can continue, not just here, but of course anywhere, because we need, everybody that's here to be out doing their thing and sharing, all that. So I don't know if I have anything extra, but as a music fan here, I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's my pleasure. Like I think I benefited greatly from the already existing scene out here when I moved here. It's very nice when all the musicians are so accepting. You hear about like kind of gatekeeping in the music industry and among players and whatever, but I didn't really experience that much here. And I think just like the more players that are working, that are also kind of just trying to, improve the scene, not just exist in it. Just the better off everyone's going to be,
I hear you. I hear you. Is there anything you want to throw out? We're going to put some dates. Do you have a website of your own that lists all your stuff, or do people have to go to the Facebook page and find
Yeah,
it?
mostly Instagram, Facebook.
Oh, Instagram, right,
That's
right,
been on my to-do list for quite some time.
right.
I've got the domain, and that's all I've gotten so far. But
I went to a website for a band today, and every page was just like gibberish. It was like the setup from Wix, and they had put nothing.
Yeah, that's probably what mine will look like for quite some
The
time.
domain name, and that was like,
Yeah.
There needs to be a band called Lorem Ipsum. Isn't that the that kind of generic text, the like Latinese kind of thing?
Yeah.
If I ever saw that, I'd be like, those are my people.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, or I guess just one last thing is I've been playing with this guy, Dechin Hawk, a good bit recently, so I want to kind of throw his name into the fold. We're playing, I think, I don't know if we've got any this month, but playing next month at Roots, and then also we'll be at like the Boulder Creek Fest and things like that. So yeah, he's a great R&B singer and piano player.
And Wyatt is also with that?
Yep, Wyatt is also playing with Dechin. Wyatt also plays a good bit with Lit Society as well. Yeah, Wyatt's in the scene for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd say just like kind of definitely if you're in the Boulder area, check out Roots Music Project.
You will be playing somewhere. If you're in the Boulder area,
I will be playing somewhere. Yeah,
that's right.
But yeah, I encourage like anyone listening to check out Roots, check out a show or check out a workshop if you're interested in that stuff. And yeah.
And is there a way for people to support it if they wanted to support it? Are you a nonprofit or?
Yes, Roots is a nonprofit. They do like kind of fundraiser events throughout the year, but also just going and being a patron at some of their like I said, they did a kind of on the hill summer concert series, things like that. Just there's a great community project that is really just now picking up steam, but it seems to be pretty exponential. So.
Very nice. Very nice. Hang out for a sec while we shut this down. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming on. Everybody watching, we got all that jam pod on all the socials. And if you put a .com on it, you're going to find our website that actually has English written on it.
I think so.
If you're watching this later, leave a comment, like, subscribe, please. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. We'll see you soon.